Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you a melee damage focused Beastmaster Ranger build guide in Baldur's Gate 3. The Beastmaster has a couple tricks up its sleeve. With the Ravens, you can apply darkness around the battlefield for your team to camp out in, and you also get the Bears, which are great for tanking. The Beastmaster is quite powerful and definitely an underrated class in Baldur's Gate 3. Now, if we're going to be melee damage focused, I'd actually recommend grabbing the Ranger Knight at level 1. This will give you heavy armor proficiency, although the Bounty Hunter to give disadvantage on the saving throw for ensnaring strike is nice as well. I'd also recommend having the Wasteland Wanderer Fire, as resistance to fire damage is huge. As a frontliner, you're likely going to be taking a Fireball or Scorching Ray from time to time, and being able to defend against it is great. However, the Beastmaster Beast Tamer is great because this gives you a Raven to pair alongside your other summons, so this can be good as well. It's entirely up to you if you need more survivability. And Dexterity is still a pretty good choice because this will give us, say, if we need to, ranged weapon attack rolls, but we can also use weapons like Baldur Alluve. And if we really want to use a melee build, strength potions are kind of the way to give the maximum amount of damage, so we can dump our strength, keep our dexterity high for initiative and armor class, because we do want to go first, and then have 16 constitution. You can push your wisdom up a little bit higher if you prefer that stat, but I do like to have a bit more health in the early game, but if you're later on in the game, you can swap around. Level 2 gives us our spells here. Hunter's Mark is fantastic for early and even late game damage, as you'll do additional 1d6 damage against a target. You can also grab Ensnaring Strike because we can hold enemies in place and then run up and smack them with our sword. Fog Cloud is nice for a bit of extra stealth. You could go Hail of Thorns if you really wanted to, but I think at this point it might be best to go Ensnaring Strike. Long Strider is actually really good. If you don't have someone else in your team that has Long Strider, you should be the one that takes it because this is 3 meters movement speed. This means we can be in melee range more often than not. For our fighting style, now 2-weapon fighting can be cool if you want to use an offhand weapon. Unfortunately, we don't get you don't get great weapon fighting, so that kind of conflicts things, but I think that the defense is the best here, or dueling if you want to use a shield for 2 extra damage, or 1 armor class. I think the 1 armor class is a little bit better though. And level 3 is when we get to take our subclass, the Beastmaster. Now, we also get to take another spell again, Long Strider if you don't already have it, Hail of Thorns, or even Fog Cloud if not. With this subclass, we get our Ranger's Companion, so we get 5 different summons to choose from. My recommendations is the Ravens or the Bear early game. The Boar is pretty useful as well in certain instances. They're all good, but I think the Bear brings the biggest benefit early game, and then late game, the Ravens or the Bear. Now, one thing to keep in mind is if you have the Aid spell, you can cast it on your entire team, boost up their health, and later on, Hero's Feast. At level 4, all we get is our feat. We can go with an alert to get the +5 to initiative to go first, which is huge, or we can go with an ability score improvement. I like the dexterity increase for weapon attack rolls, melee attack rolls, ranged weapon attack rolls, but you can go with the constitution increase if you want with a higher constitution. We could also go with the savage attacker to reroll our melee damage attack, which is useful, but I like this a little better. Now, level 5 gives us our extra attack and our companion's bond. So our proficiency bonus is added to the armor class, and damage rolls of our summons, which means they get a 3 to 4 extra armor class, which is pretty useful for keeping them alive. Now, I really think that Pass Without a Trace is one of the best spells in the game. Plus 10 to stealth checks is really, really good. This is great if you have a teammate that can cast greater invisibility on yourself, and you can Pass Without a Trace and run in basically unable to be found from stealth. At level 6, we can take the Bounty Hunter here. None of the rest of these favorite enemies are really super impactful. And our next choice, Poison or Cold Damage is nice to have a resistance to due to how common they can be in the game. So we'll go with that. Level 7 gives us our Exceptional Training. They can dash, disengage, and help as a bonus action, which is great, picking our teammates up. I also like to take Spike Growth. Crowd Control, it lasts a long time. It's a concentration, but we don't have too many other concentrations, so it's not a bad one to hold. Level 8, we don't get slowed down by difficult terrain. That is huge. And at this point, we can go, if you had the Hag, so you could have had your Dexterity max at this point, so you could put a point of Constitution. You can take the Alert feat as well, or again, we can just go with the Dexterity. If you didn't, I like to get our Dex max for best attack rolls, armor class, initiative, you name it. Now, we get to some fun choices. Now, I slightly prefer Conjure Barrage over Lightning Arrow, because we can do some silly stuff, which I'll show off, because it'll take your main hand weapon attacks damage. What's funny is you can get a Ring of Shadow Blade, and Ranger doesn't normally get Shadow Blade, but you can do a barrage with psychic damage, which can one-shot a lot of enemies, especially if you got Mind Blast to pair it with, which is crazy. If you prefer Lightning Arrow, you can go with that, but it's a little bit tricky to get good damage off with Lightning Arrow. Level 10 gives us our Hide in Plain Sight, plus 10 to stealth checks as long as we stand still. That's cool. We'll also, I guess, take Mage Breaker there, and our Natural Explorer Poison. Or again, if you took the Beastmaster, you go Fire and Cold damage resist. That's really good for survivability's sake. Level 11 is when our Beastmaster Companion is boosted. It gets an extra attack here, so it can attack and attack again. Our Ravens can now blind twice with their attack action, which is huge. And we can also then grab our Lightning Arrow. For our final level, there is a few different choices we can go with. So, We can go with a fun choice with the War Domain Cleric, because this gives us 3 bonus action attacks. And this is great because I didn't take Great Weapon Master, so if you wanted to use it like a large weapon, you could use this together. And this can also give us like Shield of Faith for concentration. It keeps it so that we have Wisdom for our spell casting stat, so you can use scrolls and not have to worry. The Fighter is a great choice too for the second win, getting a 1d10 extra damage. And then you can also grab like Great Weapon Fighting here if you wanted to have that fighting style. And the Barbarian's never a bad idea, although you can spellcast, you'll get additional damage on a rage, and then we also take half physical damage, which makes this quite tanky as we resist fire, cold, and physical, and I guess poison too. And I guess a Warlock dip could be fun too, because with the Hexblade you can make it all charisma scaling, although that's not really ideal for this build. My personal preference, you could go to level 12 Ranger, take Alert or Savage Attacker. I'm going to add in the War Domain because those bonus action attacks are nice. And we still have a bit of wisdom to be able to prepare some spells. And things like Command are really good to have, as you can learn this as a bonus action as well if you have a Band of the Mystic Scoundrel. Healing Word's great for picking up down allies. And it's good to even have Sanctuary in a pinch, so that's actually a nice spell list. As for gear, there's actually a lot of really good pieces here. And what's great about this is you can swap them around. If you want it on another teammate, you can. The Circlet of Hunting actually works really well here. You get a 1d4 bonus to your attack rolls against creatures that are marked with Hunter's Mark, True Strike, Fairy Fire, or Guiding Bolt. There is bows that can apply Fairy Fire and Guiding Bolt, so once you get to Act 3, you actually have 2 bows that can apply this, which will set you up for your melee attacks. We're not going to be using our bow that much, that's why I'm putting on a bow for passive effects. But we also don't have to go with this. Early game, you can use the Haste Helm to move around more. The Helmet of Arcane Acuity is cool if you want to land commands, because this will give us a +10 to our spell save DC. You could also go with the Steel Watcher Helmet to give yourself the ability to not be blinded. There's also the Ring and Shar Spear. I'd recommend having at least one of these on once you get to Act 3, because this allows you to use Darkness Arrows and become really tanky. I want to put the helmet on so we save a ring slot. The Cloak Protection or Deathstalk or Mantle, depending if you're Dirge or not, really it doesn't matter, your cloak. The Armor of Agility is great because we went full in on our Dexterity, which lets us use weapons like Baldur Aloof, and on top of that, we get a +2 to saving throws and no disadvantage on stealth checks. This is ideal, although you can use heavy armor. In your armor class, you can get to 31 with the gear, or even 32 with gear. And with that, we're actually going to be super survivable before we add in haste. Now, we don't have to go with this armor. Really, the best available medium armor or heavy armor will be great. Just look at the armor class. The Adamantine Scale Mail will be really good in the early game as well when you're in Act 1. And you can even use heavy armor if you preferred. Now, the Crater Flesh Gloves are cool because you should get additional 1d6 of force damage on your attacks. Never a bad idea. We can use the Helldust Gloves to add additional fire damage on your attacks, but if you want to put ice on your attacks with like the Drake Throw Glaive, I wouldn't recommend mixing those. And instead, I would recommend using the Dark Justiciar Gauntlets, which add a 1d4 of necrotic damage. 1d6 a little bit higher though, so we're going to stick with those. And then we also have the Evasive Shoes. However, you can put on the Boots of Stormy Clamor to be able to apply reverberation on the enemy, which can potentially give you a little extra thunder damage. Now, we also got the Fowler Aloof weapon here as our main weapon. This is in Act 1, so it's really nice you can use that through the whole game. You can also grab Dol Armaris for increased critical hit chance. You can use Orin's Daggers. There's actually a lot of weapons that work well here. The Cold Snap and the Offhand can apply Chilled on the enemy and also boost your armor class by 1, which is great. I like in Act 1 too, the Knife of the Undermountain King. This will give you advantage on attack rolls against lightly or heavily obscured targets while using this ring. Really useful. You can even use the Justiciar Scimitar whenever you attack with advantage. You have a chance of blinding the target. Pretty much anything that's dexterity based will work well here. Finesse based weapons, Sword of Life Stealing also works pretty decently. The Sword of the Emperor, or even the any of the 3 weapons that look like Fowler Aloof. There's also the Blade of Oppressed Souls, adding 1d4 psychic damage, which is nice too. And it's a versatile longsword. But we want the finesse ones with Fowler Aloof, so this one is a little bit better. You also get the Shrieking Song, which is really good because you can do additional thunder damage on the target, and then it also procs the Boots of Stormy Clamor. Now for rings, I got the Emblem of Greater Health there. We have the Shadow Cloaked Ring, because we'll do additional 1d4 of damage against like their heavily obscured targets. That's huge. It just boosts up our overall damage output quite a bit. But we have the Eversight Ring there, but since we already got the helmet that I put on there, we could use the Strange Conduit Ring here, which gives us 1d4 psychic damage when we hold a concentration on something like Spike Growth. That's great. If you're a high elf, you can take the Ring of Elemental Infusion, and this will add a 1d4 bonus from your Booming Blade onto your melee attack and the next attack, although this doesn't work in honor mode, so just a heads up on that. You can also take the Killer Sweetheart for that free critical hit, or the Crypt Lord Ring for a free summon. Crusher's Ring in the early game for the movement speed is nice too. And even the Caustic Band for additional 2 acid points. The damage is really good because this will actually apply to our barrage. And as mentioned, the Band of the Mystic Scoundrel is nice because we do have command from the Cleric, which won't have it. It still has our Wisdom modifier applied to it, so we actually will land them, and it's nice. But we can also go ahead with Shadowblade. If you really want to maximize the damage output, Shadowblade plus Resin Stone is going to be the way to go. But if you don't want to, you can use all the other weapons that I recommended here. This is just the peak of this build in terms of its strength. You can go with the Shadow Blade Ring here, pop this down, and then you got yourself a 2d8 damage, and then we get additional 1d4 damage from our Shadow Cloaked Ring there too. So that's actually pretty good damage because that psychic damage is doubled with the Resonance Stone. And then what's nice about that is you can keep the Shadow Blade by just swapping off and putting a different ring on. So yeah, it's kind of a free Shadow Blade for anybody. And again, you don't have to use this. It's entirely your position to use the weapon you want. We're going for more of a stealth focus, so I think that this works best. I'm going to show you how to get kind of crazy with this. I would recommend the Ravens for this, but the Bears are great too. And as mentioned, the Bears are great for the mid game. But what's great about the Raven is that with this bird here, it's able to fly and it uses movement speed. So this fly is crazy because when you drop down, you create a darkness pocket. And it can do this multiple times per turn. You can spam that. It's absolutely insane. The Beastmaster is crazy. It also gets on black wings, which allows you to summon in 2 ravens to be able to help out your team. You don't get to control these ravens, but they will go around blinding the enemies, so it's actually really useful for just keeping your team alive. I'd recommend summoning them in. We also have our Rend Vision, which we can use with our extra attack. But once we got our 3 birds in, what we're going to do is if you have a caster that has Aid and Hero's Feast, as mentioned, you can go ahead and give them the pizza that will give them the extra health. So yeah, you pop in the Hero's Feast, and we got a pizza, woohoo! And then if you give someone with a Aid spell and Hero's Feast the Staff of Spell Power, so your Cleric, they also have the Arcane Battery, so then you can go ahead for the free cast of Aid on your party here, and with Aid, that just gives them further health. So our little mini Ravens have 50 health, and our big Raven now has 81 health. It's actually kind of crazy. I'd highly recommend doing this. Now, if you want a fun trick, what you can do is have a teammate cast greater invisibility on you, and you can also learn this from a scroll, and we're going to cast Pass Without Trace on ourselves. We get a +10 to our stealth checks, we got the bonuses from our dexterity, and you can actually give yourself advantage by taking the enhance ability. I know it's another concentration, but it's kind of nice. You can also use the Cat's Grace outfit to be able to apply this to yourself. Now, another thing is we can actually use our team to support us by setting up darkness arrows. These are kind of our little bubbles that we want to have set up. So we're actually not in combat right now because it counts that we actually hit away. So we don't break our stealth, which is great because this allows us to go in and then melee attack targets that have got hit with our darkness here, and we get advantage on that. We entered the fight, but the thing is we have a stealth check. So right now it's only a difficulty class 15. It'll start at 15 and it'll scale up by 1 every single time that we do a stealth check. We rolled a 39, so you can imagine we can stay in our stealth pretty long. So we'll just go with another melee attack here because we're a melee focused hunter. That's weird, got rid of the darkness there, but that's fine. We can just run up here and attack this target with advantage. We'll likely take them out one shot. Perfect. We succeeded the stealth check. Nobody even knows what's happening. People are just dying left, right, and center, and that's not even our worry. So that's another target that got taken out, a big explosion. They don't even know where we're at, so we don't have to worry. We can just end our turn here. We didn't need the darkness pocket set up. They think that we're somewhere over there where our clone is. So yeah, that's actually really nice. We could have used the, I guess, mints to set up more darkness, but we're fine. This kind of plays like the Gloomstalker in a sense. So our Ravens are really a big component for this build. What we want to use is the fly here. So you can go with the fly ability and do that once. We got darkness there. We can do that again. We'll set up more darkness. The Ravens are really silly in how powerful they are because you can just continually keep popping down darkness like this. It's actually a little bit absurd how powerful this can be, especially if you got like Long Strider set up on your Ravens as well. So yeah, we create a whole darkness pathway here, so there's nothing that the enemies can do. We can then use our Raven to blind these targets too, so if they end up leaving this area, they got advantage because it's darkness here. We blinded that target for 2 turns, perfect. And then since we got the extra attack, we blinded a second target for 2 turns. That's exactly what we wanted. Our Ravens will just freely go around attacking, and they can also end up blinding enemies as well. They got an attack off, which was nice, but they're mostly there just to provide a bit of support. So they're going to eat up attacks, get opportunity attacks off too, which is nice. So you can see there's 2 opportunity misses. And our enemies are blinded, so they kind of react funny with darkness because it breaks their line of sight, and they'll do a lot of throwing attacks, and they typically would do a bow attack because they can't break that line of sight. And the birds, again, are great for soaking up attacks. That's why Aid and Hero's Feast is so good, because that gives them more than 1 attack that they can survive. They can survive 2 or 3 attacks. Darkness is also nice because it'll protect some of your more vulnerable party members from getting hit with spells as it breaks that line of sight again, which is super useful. But we also have those arrows of darkness. Now, we're still in stealth. That's the crazy part about this. So as any good melee build does, we're going to go take advantage of the extra damage that we can get from being hidden. So yeah, that's one-shotting everybody in our vicinity. And then we can even just pop out and go ahead with a Conjure Barrage. I mentioned this earlier. The crazy thing about Conjure Melee Barrage is it does 2d8 Psychic plus 2d8 plus 8 Psychic plus 1d6 Fire plus 1d4 Psychic. So yeah, this does a lot of damage. Boom, I got counterspelled. I hate that about this attack. That was about to just one-shot all these enemies here, but we still have our extra attack, so we'll at least take out this enemy here, and then scurry back into our darkness. We we lost pass without trace. Our bird lost pass without trace, but we're still hitting the stealth checks. We have a difficulty class of 21 now. We rolled a 33, but we can easily roll a 40. And our birds are mostly going to be safe because they can just camp out in the darkness, and then it's going to be its turn again. And what it can do is just do the little dark fart hop around again. And yeah, that fly is just super nice because you can just pollute the ground with darkness. And then the enemies are really screwed up because they don't know what to do as it breaks their line of sight. And then our ravens are getting their attacks in, which is great. It's just chip damage. But sometimes this is just enough, especially if you're using Call the Weak on your Tav or Dirge. That means that sometimes they're going to get low enough to the threshold where you can one-shot them easily with something like Conjure Barrage. And the ravens will sometimes eat up your spells like Command Drop. they took it for our team. As the enemy's AI will sometimes just upcast their spells to do it on the ravens as well, or ignore you too. And the best part of our darkness is it actually pushes the enemy away from it. So normally the AI of this enemy, they stick way back there and use that to their advantage. Now they're getting forced up close here, so we can actually go in and do some crazy things here. So yeah, literally, if you got Booming Blade from the high elf, that's really ideal because this will boost your damage up even further. But we got advantage on every attack roll. That's why I like the darkness on this. And the reason I wanted to is Shadow Blade has one ability, is that it gets advantage on heavily or lightly obscured targets, which stacks with the Shadow Cloaked Ring, which stacks with our ravens. Yeah, there's a lot of combos on this build that are a lot of fun. We'll use up our last bonus action attack there to finish them off. That's perfect. So yeah, the War Priest charges, those 3 bonus action attacks for long rest are really great on this build. It gives us command as well. As I mentioned, there's gear to support that. So very powerful build, stealth focused. The melee-focused Beastmaster Ranger in Baldur's Gate 3. This was a request, so if you want to see something in Baldur's Gate 3, let me know in the comments. Have a great day, and we'll catch you in the next one.